All right, we're going to talk about right now section 1.4. Conditional statements and their converse. This is one of those, I don't know if weird's the right word or just something in geometry that kind of, this is mostly logic. Can anybody see that okay? If-then statements. Is basically a statement that's in the form if something happens, comma, then the other. Okay? And when you have an if-then statement, the first part, the part that goes with your if, is called your hypothesis. The part that goes with your then is your conclusion. If-then statements in a way predict the future. If this happens, then this will happen. Okay? If-then statements aren't always true. Okay? Let's go with an example. If we'll go with this. If you take out the trash, then you get to go to the movies. Okay, that's what your mom tells you. Says if you take out the trash, then you get to go to the movies. And this is how I want you doing this in your assignment. When I say write the problem, you'll write that out. This is one of those few assignments that you write it out word for word. There's no abbreviating. Okay? Which part of this is the hypothesis? What happens as a result? Or what is the conclusion to you taking out the trash? You get to go to the movies. How hard is that? It's not that bad, is it? This is called your conditional statement. You guys are given conditions in life all the time, aren't you? In fact, you guys fight them. Most of you probably fight them like you wouldn't believe. You have to do this in order for this, and you hate it, right? They say you got to make good grades to get into college. You got to, there are conditions, but a big part of your life is there are conditions. If you want something to happen, you're going to have to make it happen by following those conditions or doing the conditions. That's why it's called a conditional statement. If this happens, then as a result, the other happens. Okay? You say, well, why are we worrying about this in math? Well, you'll see a lot of, in fact, most of your theorems written in this form. A lot of them, at least. And conditional statements are usually the kind of way that math has gotten to where we kind of abbreviate this. You know, it seems like we're abbreviating everything, aren't we? If they have P and then draw an arrow and then have Q, what they're saying is if P, then what do you think? Q. This is your conditional statement. What is the P in this example I have here? You take out the trash, right? This is the P, right? What's the Q? Everybody? You go to the movies, right? Everybody okay with that? The reason this is handy is it helps us with this. The converse of a conditional statement is Q, then P. Or if Q, then P. So what would our converse be of that statement? I'll let you get to right there and get all this written down, get caught up, and then we'll talk about what would the converse of that statement be. Yes, sir. Yeah. That a baby. That's perfect. Why did he flip the order? Because if this was P then Q, right? The converse is what? Q then P. Your conclusion becomes your what? Hypothesis, and your hypothesis becomes your what? That's just one of those things in life. You know, when you're learning a different language, you say, why in the world did they use converse? I don't know. But when you're learning a different language, sometimes there'll be some weird things. And you know, and if you think about it, is the math in this very hard at all? This is more English, isn't it? So these are the ones you need to get right on a test. Because all it is understanding that if this is your conditional statement, that's the first part, that's the second, the hypothesis and the conclusion. Then I ask you, what is the converse of that? All you got to do is put that up there and that down there. And sometimes, like he did, you'll kind of maybe need to change your English, but it'll mean the same thing. So I think you said if you got to go to the movies, then what? You what? You took out the trash. This is now your what? Your conclusion, and this became your what? Hypothesis. What happened first was, oh, look, Johnny went to the movies. As a result, then he must have took out the trash, huh? You see what I mean? So that's what conditional statement is. Conditional statement is what you start with, the if and then. The converse of that statement is when you bring the conclusion to the front. The conclusion is your if, and the hypothesis is your conclusion. You flip the order. Now, the one thing is we won't always, or in life, things aren't always going to be written in a nice if-then form. We're going to have to kind of convert things to if-then form. So you need to be able to read. And let's get our worksheets out and let's look at number 6. Everyone looking at number 6 here? The directions are to identify the hypothesis and conclusion of each statement. Well, that's great. The thing about it is, did they write it in a perfect if-then form for me? I'll put the other back up there in case you need to write it down. Did they put it up there? Did they do it in perfect if and then? I will do better at my piano recital if I practice each day. Okay. What's the conclusion? What's going to happen? I see way too many people with their heads down. If you what? So what happened first? Yeah, but it's actually at the what? End of the sentence, isn't it? But it's actually the hypothesis, is it not? You see how they wrote it in a different order? Couldn't you write that? Think of it in your mind. Okay, if, what's the if? What are you going to do? What's the condition? I practice each day. What happens as a result? Then what? You will do better at your recital. So when you write this problem down word for word, when you box this in right here, and I'm just fine with you putting a capital C for what? Conclusion. And then you boxing that in or circling in and saying that is my what? Capital H for what? Now these up here, let's go back up to, everybody understand why that's actually the hypothesis? Okay, look at number 1. If it rains, then I bring my umbrella. What's the condition happening? The hypothesis. It rains. What happens as a result? You bring your umbrella. That's your conclusion. Number 2. If it is Saturday, then what? I go to the movie. What happens what is the condition? That it's what? When it's Saturday, so that's your hypothesis. What happens as a result or as a conclusion? It's not so bad, is it? Everybody look at number 3. I will go swimming tomorrow if it is hot. They didn't write this perfect order, did they? What's the condition? For you to go swimming, what has to happen? So which one's the hypothesis? Absolutely. What happens as a result? I will go swimming. If it is a birthday party, I will buy a gift. How they try to trick you here? They didn't put what? Then. But what happened? What is the condition? There being a what? What happens as a result? So, I will buy a what? So this is your hypothesis. Buying a gift is your conclusion, is it not? And we'll skip 5 because they're starting to run into each other. Because you guys can get that one the same as the others, isn't it? Okay, now here, now they're really going to mess with you. Now they're wanting you to be creative. They're wanting you to write 2 forms of the same statement. Heavens to Betsy. How about I say, when a person flosses regularly, they have what? Healthier gums. Did I say the exact same thing? The condition of the statement was someone having what? Flossing regular. As a result, they had what? Healthier gums. That's one way. Is there going to be a lot of different answers here that probably are right? Yeah. And I'm going to just get really creative out there. I'm going to say, having healthier gums requires flossing what? Regularly. You guys can probably think of some different ways to write that, can't you? But do both those sentences say the same thing as the other? What I would suggest too, this one was kind of already an if-then form. On ones like these that aren't really an if-then form, write one of them at least an if-then form. We are in the state finals if we win tomorrow. I would write, what do you think you could say here? Then we are in the state finals. That'd be one. Then you could say getting to the state finals means we win tomorrow. See what I mean? There's all different ways to write it. All numbers can be written in the form, or all odd numbers can be written in the form 2n plus 1. Right here. What do you think is your hypothesis? These kind of, this will mess with you. If you were asked, if they ask you for the hypothesis here, what are they saying? If what? If it's an odd number. If it's a what? Odd number, then what? It can be in the form 2n plus 1. So that's your hypothesis, and that's your what? Conclusion, right? What is the converse of the first statement? The first statement here, look at number 10. If two lines never cross, then they are parallel lines. What would the converse of that be? If they are parallel lines, then they're two lines that never crossed. Or you could say if two lines are parallel, then they never crossed. Right? How about number 11 though? All even numbers are divisible by 2. What is your if? That's your hypothesis, is it not? A number is a what? Even number. As a result, what happens? They're divisible by 2. Now is it easier to write the converse? You could say if a number is divisible by 2, then what? It is even number. Okay. Any questions? Guys, you have to write the problems. I'm telling you, you don't write the problems on this as much writing as there was, I'm going to give you a 0. Because I'm going to reward the people that went through the painstaking process of writing out these problems.